I believe that art of the future is art without objects. This is just pure transmission of energy between the viewer and artist.
We're just going to jump right into this one. I'll censor everything possible, but we're going to reveal the truth of Marina Abramovic today. She is very dark, and the stuff that you'll learn about her is not normal, yet still socially worshipped and accepted. Please stop and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, like the content. I always forget to ask that, but if you could do that, it shows me that my studies are helpful. For this particular content, viewer discretion is advised. We're going to be covering a lot of things today, and what I feel comfortable starting with is how Ally Carter was telling us that children were up on the table at Diddy's parties. Naturally, I believe we can all agree that using someone's body in that form is a special kind of evil, to party with, to lust over, to violate, especially children, especially. And we see here that he really did lay people down on tables nude to hold his food on their bodies for him and his guests. And this behavior continues to be normalized. It falls under the umbrella of Hollywood art. And right up under that same category, art, are the art pieces accomplished by an individual named Marina Abramovic. These gory, wild food trays for elites and partygoers are considered a work of art to enjoy at an event that took place at the Los Angeles Museum of Contemporary Art's Gala, titled An Artist's Life Manifesto, and directed by the one and only Marina Abramovic. Here's what happened. Back in 2011 at this event, Marina took live models and she had them crouched underneath the table, so they would be a super creepy art piece viewing the elites and the guests as they ate their meals at the event. At other tables, she had nude women featuring skeletons laying across the body of the nude woman. Following dinner, 4 shirtless men carried legendary singer-songwriter Debbie Harry from the band Blondie. They carried her out to the stage where Marina came out and joined her in front of the other guests. Soon, 2 large female nude cakes were brought out as dessert. One cake was of Marina and the other was of Debbie Harry. These were large, life-size cakes of these 2 women totally nude. And guys, I saw how this event was celebrated. I saw the different video footage that was released. I won't feature that here, but the elite guests were given white scientist coats to wear during the event. And these people turned into animals. They turned into animals. Men and women, they started fondling and eating off the nude cake bodies. They started digging knives into the female body cake's breasts and genitals of the female bodies. One man in particular, where his head went, if you can imagine. Like he was, doing something downstairs with his mouth. And they were all laughing and having a great time because it's all art. And it didn't help that Debbie Harry took her own cake and she took the heart out of herself and, she was holding it up. It was pretty gross. But a woman by the name of Yvonne Rainer was somebody that was able to see what was going to be taking place at the event. And she wrote up a really big complaint. I've never heard of her before, but she's a dancer, choreographer, and a filmmaker who is allegedly very well respected within Hollywood. But I'm going to save the best for last, meaning I'll close out the content with what she had to say once we get to know more about Marina Abramovic. That evening at the gala in 2011, this was the cake of Marina that was served. And if you look closely, there's a star carved into the stomach of the clone. This is because it's actually carved into Marina's body, something she did to herself in one of her performances in 1973 called Lips of Thomas. You see, before the gory cakes and this gala event, Marina is first known to be a performance artist. She's known for a lot of performance art gigs, but especially remembered well for an art piece she completed in 1974. Now, if the performance art gig left her body with a scarred pentagram, then brace yourself to hear about what happened in 74. And before I get into what exactly went down in history the evening of 1974, we need to acknowledge what performance art even is. Performance art is an artwork or art exhibition created through actions executed by the artist or other participants. It involves 5 basic elements: time, space, body, and presence of the artist, and the relation between the creator and the public. The actions generally take place in museums or galleries, but they can also take place on the street pretty much at any given time. Any setting, any type of space. Some examples from other performance artists include a woman by the name of Millie Brown, known for several different performances, but one in particular helped her rise to fame as a performance artist. The art was Millie Brown vomiting different colors onto a canvas and creating art with colorful vomit. While the rest of us may truly feel disgusted and disturbed by this, Lady Gaga found this interesting and cool, so she allowed Millie Brown to market Millie's art on stage, doing, you know what, all over Lady Gaga's chest while Lady Gaga performed at her concert. I don't understand this woman, Lady Gaga. The more I read about her, the more I'm like, what are you doing? We might have to talk about it. Anyway, during the same concert, the woman Millie and Lady Gaga, they end up getting up on this bull that's kind of in the air, you know, being held in the air, and it starts bucking. And this woman Millie sits on the fake bull that's bucking midair over the crowd, right? Kind of sexualizing herself, as it appears that 2 women are riding a bull together. And as they are both on this fake bucking bull together, kind of wearing fishnets and such, Millie is sticking her fingers down her throat and forcing herself to get sick, this time with black vomit on Lady Gaga some more. And it's a thing. People are into it. I've seen comments, oh, that is so sexy. I've never seen anything like that before. Millie has come out and she says that she has used her body in a beautiful way in doing things like this in different acts, especially with Lady Gaga stating, I think the whole bulimia thing, it's important for people to know that I am not trying to promote it and that we, the people, are misunderstanding if we don't get it. I think we get it. Turns out Millie is also a fan of Marina Abramovic. Additionally, you can find Millie and Lady Gaga performing this same piece of art on a music piece called Exorcist, of all names, performed by Lady Gaga. It's a video where Lady Gaga does nothing more than bleed, eat things that are bleeding, and get puked on by Millie. And since we are talking about Lady Gaga, it's a must to state that she is also a very huge supporter of Marina Abramovic too. Getting into another performance artist, her name is Jex Blackmore, and she's affiliated with the Satanic Temple. Jex Blackmore publicized 3 abortions through a detailed blogging project, a film performance, and ended up taking a medical abortion pill during an interview on local TV.
This very pill, by blocking the hormone and allowing a pregnancy to grow. And I want to show you how easy it is and safe it is by taking it myself.
You're not pregnant, are you?
She does radically demonic things, and she is, again, under that umbrella of artist through performance art. I have watched some activity and interviews with Jex Blackmore, just to be fair, to see what kind of person she is and, you know, what she has to stand for and say for herself. And she just literally makes no sense to me. She seems psychotic. It's not because she believes differently than me. She's not just some lost, troubled person. Like, literally, she seems very psychotic. I do believe that it plays into what she believes that causes her to be that way. I have no shame in letting you know I think she is crazy. And for those of you that have seen the movie The Witch, Jex Blackmore has raved about how amazing this movie is and took this as an opportunity to conduct satanic rituals across the country alongside the film's success, The the witch. But this is what she does. She runs around and delivers souls to Satan in rituals all over. I can't make this up. This is literally what she brags about. This is what she's proud of. This is all she stands for. This is what she does. Additionally, one of her satanic acts, performance art pieces, featured Jex standing as she was pelted with 100 pounds of fruit, rotten fruit that is, during her second abortion on live television it had a big screen behind her. And on the big screen, there was the 2019 March of Life airing where people were fighting for pro-life, which is obviously against what she believes, which is pro-abortion, including our current president, Trump, on the screen behind her talking. So she stood there pregnant and let her baby die while people chucked and pelted her with rotten fruit at her body, including her stomach. And she has carried a cross mocking Jesus Christ as a statement for pro-abortion rights. I might get criticism from some people for this, but in my opinion, this form of art is a distorted way of submission to prove a point. I actually think it is very satanic, and I think it is drawing people to the underlining of sinful things, normalizing these dark things like eating disorders, death, near death, heartbreak, physical and emotional pain. It doesn't seem very good to me. Sebastian Horsley actually acted out part of the crucifix of Jesus Christ for his little stunt piece. I guess it wasn't enough that Jesus has been painted several thousand times as the leading hero for why he ended up on the cross. No, Sebastian decided he wanted to end up there and see it for himself. Totally foolish and completely stupid. Skip past the grievance that Jesus Christ felt knowing he would be punished for loving people. The true story is Jesus agonized at the thought of being beat and hung on the cross. He was tortured, and the cross was murder. Jesus actually asked God before he was crucified, "If you are willing, please take this cup of suffering from me." The reason he followed through was it was an act of love. It is the most significant event in history, not a performance art skit. So that's what Jesus, who was truly crucified, did before he was hung on the cross. Sebastian, before he decided to hang himself on a cross, had been sleeping with prostitutes because he was a sex addict. He was using substances. He found meaning through being offensive. He decided to just skip the importance of the crucifix and, safe to say, what really actually happened the day Jesus was killed, and get nailed to some boards and act out the crucifix without painkillers for art. These people wouldn't have the courage to do it the right way if they were called to it. So it's just easier for them to pick and choose what they'll act out and call themselves an artist. And all that they're doing and standing for, unlike Christ, is to prove a very selfish point, to inflict pain on themselves for a very meaningless cause. Sebastian is dead. He OD'd, but sadly for him, not in the form that he requested. In 2008, he romanticized wanting to die in the arms of a prostitute. But also, if you go back and you look at his history, he was very tormented. He had a very rough start in life with his parents as well. So, end of the day, it's like more tragic than anything, and not in an artistic way. There seems to be plenty of information regarding Marina's title of success, but when I looked her up and her childhood information, there were definitely issues between Marina and her mother. I found this very interesting for two reasons. One, a lot of her art features desensitizing material, especially things that she has done toward herself in order to express strong statements through performance art. But I think it's incredibly interesting as a woman that she really did not get along with the lead female in her life, her own mother. In fact, she remembers her mother best as the woman who beat her and had military control over Marina and her brother. Marina mentioned, "I learned my self-discipline from her, and I was always afraid of her." She says that her parents had a terrible marriage, citing that her childhood within their household was a place that was known as a complete lack of love. On one occasion, she recalls she was doing performance art, which was a specific act consisting of cutting herself, whipping herself, burning herself, and almost losing her life in her act called the Fire Star. And everything was done before 10 in the evening. That was her mother's curfew. Bottom line, I really didn't read too many good things about the relationship between Marina and her mother. Next, a couple of interesting things about her. She loves art so much that she has found her value in it so deeply that she'll kill for it. She's had 3 abortions for the love of her art, and not because she was, struggling to carry, not because it was detrimental to her health, all those things that people that are pro-abortion fight for. Medical emergencies. But because of how a lot of women actually treat the topic of abortion like a plan B. She said that children hold women back in the art world. In my opinion, she says this is the reason why women aren't as successful as men in the art world. There's plenty of talented women. So why do men take over the important positions? She continues, it's simple. Love, family, children. A woman doesn't want to sacrifice all of that. Let's talk about what happened in 1974. Marina Abramovic completed this art piece called Rhythm Zero. She chose to objectify herself by standing in a crowd between the hours of 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. She placed 76 objects that people were allowed to use in any way that they chose. A sign stood present near the objects that read, "There are several objects on the table that anyone can use on me as desired. Performance. I am the object. During this period, I take full responsibility. Some of the objects could give pleasure, and others could be used to harm her or inflict pain. There were things like a rose, a feather, honey, a whip, olive oil, scissors, a gun, and a single bullet." For 6 hours, the artist allowed audience members to manipulate her body and take action without consequences. It was said to test how vulnerable and aggressive human subjects could be when actions have no social consequences. She said at first nobody did much at all, but by the end of her art, her body was stripped, attacked, and devalued. She said, "What I learned was if you leave it up to the audience, they can kill you. I felt really violated. They cut up my clothes, stuck rose thorns in my stomach. One person aimed the gun at my head and the other took it. It created an aggressive atmosphere. After exactly 6 hours as planned, I stood up and started walking toward the audience. Everyone ran away to escape an actual confrontation." So she purposefully, for the sake of art, placed herself in that position to explore the limits of danger and exhaustion. Later, she would go on to be very famous over the experiment and complete a TED Talk about it. In the beginning, everyone was asked to imagine that event that happened as they were blindfolded. She spoke about that evening, the 6 hours, as they remained blindfolded, and she talks about how she was victimized during the experiment. Then they were asked to take the blindfolds off, and immediately they are welcomed by the view of Marina Abramovic on stage and a representation of the pentagram she carved in her stomach. She goes on to tell the audience at the TED Talk that this is an energy dialogue between the performer and the audience. She says the performer and the audience make the piece together. So what she's saying is that without your participation, the art doesn't exist. But because people participate in this and they support it and they show up for it, it does. It's a thing. Performance art. She says, "I'm taking your fears and I'm performing them out. If I can do this for myself, you can do it for you." She's done multiple pieces. That same year, Rhythm 4 was a piece that she did where she was in a room nude and approached a high-power industrial fan until her lungs couldn't take it and she passed out. And that in mind, just remember what she said. It's art created by the audience and the performer. So that means that people are showing up to watch this stuff. The idea was to push the limits of her lungs. And there are more. She met the love of her life, named Ulay, and together they did performances for 12 years. Their performances were radically and extremely performed, like the time he pointed an arrow directly at her heart, or when they locked lips, sharing their breaths without external access to oxygen for 20 minutes before they both passed out. But her love of art couldn't save her first marriage nor the relationship with Ulay. Their relationship was tumultuous. In a performance piece called Night Sea Crossing, his endurance couldn't keep up with hers. This was 22 performances that took place between 1981 and 1987 in 19 different locations around the world. The performance consisted of 7 daily hours of concentration while sitting motionless in a state of tranquility. So he couldn't take it. So he got up and he walked out, and she stayed sitting to complete the piece of art. And I was very disheartened, but not surprised when she said, as every relationship comes to an end, ours came to an end too. So for her, relationships are really not a thing, because she just said it, like every relationship comes to an end. Not with her mother, not to be a mother, not to keep a lover. It's all just art. It's all about the art. She would say that he was getting into substances and drinking and he was sleeping with other people, and then he would come out and defend and say, well, she slept with our very good friend at the time. Art to bring together, art to end. When they went to end their relationship, they created it as a performance art piece called Lovers, where they walked the Great Wall of China to say goodbye to one another. She started on one end and he started on the other, and then the two would end up taking 3 months and eventually meet in the middle to say goodbye. Seeing as to how this was in China, Ulay was working with a translator. Well, after they completed Lovers, even though they were finished, he told her that he ended up hooking up with the translator and he got her pregnant. So he went on to have a child and become a father, and he married the translator. In 2010, Marina did a similar performance to that of which offended Ulay to begin, where she sat in a chair silently across from multiple strangers for about 3 months, and she was staring into the eyes of strangers. She called this The Artist is Present, to which actually James Franco participated in it, and he's also known to be one of her closest companions. And additionally, Ulay showed up. Nationally, that moment was romanticized. She cries and she's not supposed to react, despite she reaches across the table and she grabs his hand. I'll be honest, I do have a heart for how this must have felt, and I get it. I think it's very sentimental. However, I also think that the choices to worship art more than the ability to find the gift of love for one another sort of led to this demise. And Hollywood likes to romanticize heartbreak and crushing circumstances, and oftentimes Hollywood brings people together only to tear them apart. So it's not necessarily that unusual. You'll see couples come together through acting and then they go their own ways because their goals were different, or Hollywood just destroyed their relationship or their marriage, and then later they have to see each other at the red carpet. So it's not really like the first time something like this would happen, and it's not the last. Actually, he ended up suing her in 2015, claiming she paid him insufficient royalties. And in 2018, it appeared the two ended up sitting in chairs again and made their peace before he later died in 2020 at age 76. Now, rumors have gripped onto the name of Marina Abramovic as Satanic, and from the looks of it, she's gained the public's attention. She's dedicated her life to art, and I really wanted a closer look into Marina, seeing as to how she's got these really big Hollywood ties. For example, we talked about how she's close with Lady Gaga, a huge supporter of Marina Abramovic. Marina Abramovic is said to have been, or possibly still is, close to Jay-Z. And she ended up in his music video, Pasako Baby, to which he would donate to her institute and give her work attention in trade for her attendance in his music video. Which brings us to the fact that, yes, Marina has an institute where she provides workshops for people to come and learn and participate underneath her. Now, Marina has denied being a Satanist, but admits to her work being spiritual. So here's the thing. If this is all really just a form of art, and she becomes your spiritual teacher, then who are you learning from, really? Spirit cooking was an art project Marina Abramovic created in 1996, and it's not eggs in a Bible study with Jesus. It's based off a spirit cookbook she wrote, where the reader is to follow the recipe instructions of committing unusual sometimes violent acts if necessary in the process of cooking. To design the book, she wrote in pig's blood instructions of what to do. It is said that the self-help instructions designed in this book are meant to be poetry. However, spirit cooking later evolved into a form of dinner party entertainment that Marina occasionally lays out only for collectors, donors, and friends. You know, she gets so mad with the public for assuming this is possibly witchcraft, but is she mad because it is and she doesn't want us to know this is like a Hollywood open door for celebs? Or is she in denial that this is bad and dark and it is evil because this is all she knows and in her head this is art? Regarding this book, I think that her book is cryptic. Allegedly, she put herself on Reddit to answer some questions, and I don't know if it's her or not, but it looks like it could be. And somebody asked about spirit cooking, and she said, if you're doing it at home, then it might not be. Now, here's the weird thing. People were pushing the spirit cooking topic around the internet for a while, and there were some links to YouTube and Reddit and different articles to answer for some of these things, and they looked like they were going to be really good. I was enticed to get more information, so I would click on the links to them and they were gone. Pages, gone, vanished. Articles, YouTube videos, Reddit posts. But what I do know is that it does appear that the book she's written is very witchy. Seems like I've heard people say she's a true Hollywood witch. You know what? A lot of times she's seen in black, and I personally love black because, you know what? I just think it looks really nice on people, but it's just kind of different the way she sports it, right? But additionally, she constantly seen with things that signify death or things that are kind of venomous, like snakes. Like, why would you put a snake on your head? And why would you write a poetry book about sitting with a snake? In closing, I'll reveal what Yvonne Rainer felt when it came to this gala event. We'll kind of bring it back to where we started, and we'll just see what somebody else that's very well respected thinks about her. Now, this isn't going to be the whole letter, you guys, because it's long, but we'll just go over the basics of what she thought about the party. At the rehearsal, the 50 heads, all young and beautiful and mostly white, turning and bobbing out of the holes as their bodies crouched beneath the otherwise empty tables, appeared touching and somewhat comic. But when I tried to envision 800 inebriated diners surrounding them, I had another impression. I cannot help but feeling that subjecting her performers to possible public humiliation and bodily injury from the 3-hour endurance test at the hands of a bunch of frockling donors is yet another example of the museum's callousness and greed, and Miss Abramovic's obliviousness to differences in context and some of the implications of transposing her own powerful performances to the bodies of others. Miss Abramovic is so wedded to her original vision that she doesn't see the egregious associations for the performers who, though willing, will be exploited nonetheless. This is embarrassing. The letter continues that using young and beautiful people that are naive enough to take these positions in order to have their foot in the door into the art world is a disgrace. And she calls it out, Marina Abramovic using these young, beautiful and talented people to showcase herself in order to humiliate young, naive people. Like, thank God somebody stood up for these people, right? Somebody's like, wait, no, these people matter. What are you doing? You know, Marina says that she's been practicing performance art for over 40 years. And here's what I think. I think 40 years of practice is a really long time to be mad at your mom. Don't think that this is just art. I think this is her anger and her rage and her lack of self-acceptance. And I don't think she will change. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put that on her that, you know what, you're not going to change. But as long as she's around these other people and pentagrams and snakes and skulls and Michelle Lamy, I don't know, but I don't think so. And it's not fair, like Yvonne Rainer said, to lead other people there. But my suggestion is, if I were you or anyone else, I wouldn't be going there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you have a really wonderful rest of your week or weekend. Respect your spouses, hug your kids, and stay blessed. I'm Chelsea J.